Hello friends, Elinor here. In episode 4, The Question Box, we explored the landscape of sexuality and middle childhood, and how the school system really failed us in 1988. Curriculum scholar Dr. Tonya Callaghan was a key part of that episode, and with this 4th and final bonus episode of Late in 88, we wanted to share more of their incredible insight on the topic of how sexuality is taught in Canadian schools, and what key steps need to be taken to make learning a safer space for everyone.
I've taught human sexuality at the junior high and high school level, and we do have those question boxes for anonymity, and students can write on a piece of paper and then we read them later. Best not to do it in front of the students. You should read them at home first and figure out, okay, what have they all asked me? And then put them in groups and answer them properly. We do get training a little bit about human sexuality in teacher training programs at the universities throughout Canada. There is an increase now in the 2000s of understanding equity, diversity, and inclusion matters. For example, at the University of Calgary, we have a mandatory course that I designed called Diversity in Learning. It's a course that people who want to become teachers must take. And in there, they will learn about all manner of diversity, including gender and sexual orientation diversity. So there is some information nowadays, but in the 80s, there would not have been that kind of training at the university. The teachers would be like flying by the seat of their pants, really trying to figure out, how do I handle this particular piece of diversity? When it comes to sexual health, there's not a lot of training at the university even today in that matter. So they leave that to the boards, actually, the school boards, because they're so different. And they have so many different opinions, if you will, about how human sexuality should be taught, even though there is a unit from the Ministry of Education that has been designed by curriculum experts that they believe our culture would like to impart to our young people about remaining safe, STIs, teenage pregnancy, avoiding that sort of thing is the major point of the human sexuality unit. But there's still some boards that take issue with even that message, right? So that's why they leave the training of how to teach human sexuality to the boards themselves. I received very Catholic training in that. It was extremely homophobic and transphobic, which is part and part of the Catholic school system. That's how they roll when it comes to human diversity related to sexual orientation and gender identity. But that's not only in Catholic schools. Other publicly funded secular schools also grapple with this question. There's not a lot of training. So the teachers, they have to rely on their own self-education to make sure they attend these workshops on how to teach human sexuality. But usually the board will require them to attend a session or a workshop or an orientation session if they're going to be asked to teach about human sexuality, because they want to make sure that they know their curriculum, they know how this board wants you to approach it, and what things you're allowed to say and what things you're not allowed to say, and to avoid parental complaints, right? The school board would like to avoid that. Bullying has been a problem for ages in all settings in schools. Whenever you're different, whatever it may be, it could be about your ability. Maybe you need to have hearing aids as a child, or maybe you walk differently because you need some supports in that regard. Or it could be about your skin color. It could be about your sexual orientation or your gender identity, which are interesting because in a lot of ways they're considered highly private matters, your sexual orientation or how you express yourself sexually. There are some attributes that people have that they can't really hide. Let's try to imagine a young gay boy who has a very high voice. He can't do anything about that high voice, right? Or a young lesbian who is very athletic and is very stocky build that she could get if she uses the pronouns she, they, or they, them. They can't do anything about their build, like how they were, their structure of their body. And if they play rugby, they're going to be even stronger than usual. People might try to bully someone like that for their gender expression, right? Because, well, you're a girl and you should be having long hair and painted nails, and look at you, you're very butch looking, so we're going to bug you about that. Bullying is a big deal. There's a whole swack of research on that matter. It is serious. It's as serious as life or death. A lot of people have done some great work on trying to reduce bullying in the school system, but still we have some conservative thinkers, even recently, speaking about how, well, isn't bullying just part of life? Why do we have to attend so much to bullying? When you have a young person who is so bullied that they're considering suicide, then that's a serious matter. And that's, in fact, one of the reasons I do the work that I do today, because there was a young man in the school where I was teaching who was relentlessly bullied because of his sexual orientation. He was a gay man. He was 17. He was a promising drama student, and he ended up dying by suicide because the bullying was just not attended to in the schools. And then if it's bullying related to sexual orientation or gender identity, it has improved now, but certainly if you're looking at late in 88, there would not have been a lot of training in that, and he would have gone to the school counselor who would have not had enough training in how to deal with homophobic and transphobic bullying. So what many people in a Catholic school will say, and this is what happened to this young man, can you just tone down the gay? Just turn that down, because if you're too loudly gay, people will set upon you. So they're basically blaming the victim right there when they're doing that. They're saying, you need to change, victim, because what you're doing is causing people to look at you differently, and that's what's bringing on the bullying. So victim, go ahead and change, but we're not going to go and change the people who are causing the bullying. You can see that happening to all other minority groups as well. There is an attempt to reduce bullying. We have the Pink Shirt Day. Why do we have Pink Shirt Day? It was a story from the Maritimes. A young gay male was being bullied because he wore a pink shirt to school one day. Started to feel suicidal, like in the story that I just shared. That's a homophobic form of bullying, right? You're a boy, you shouldn't be wearing a pink shirt. And we're going to show you just what we mean by that, by being violent towards you. That Pink Shirt Day is originated from homophobic and transphobic bullying, but it's just kind of generic now, like anti-bullying day. So one of my goals is to always point out that the origin of that day is homophobic bullying and people trying to police others in terms of their sexual orientation expression, and how they might appear in terms of their orientation, but also their gender identity. I'm really proud of attempts to get gay-straight alliances in Catholic schools. There were some really courageous young people in Ontario who took their school to task over that. They went to the media and said, hey, we've been trying for years actually to get a gay-straight alliance in our Catholic school, and we've been just stonewalled all the time. The tactic of those Catholic school leaders in the province of Ontario, but also Alberta and Saskatchewan, is to delay and deny. Let us think about that. We'll conduct a study, we'll look into that, and then of course the student graduates and we no longer have a gay-straight alliance. I'm proud that young people were able to do that, and we are able to do that. Educational researchers are able to write about that and ensure that there's guidelines made available from the ministry to the school boards in the whatever province about, if you would like to start a gay-straight alliance, here's how to start it. Because gay-straight alliances are not just for gay people or LGBTQ, they're gay-straight alliance. So it meant to be for the LGBTQ people in the school to feel comfortable working and being around, socializing with those who may not identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer. And just having a gay-straight alliance in the school actually reduces other forms of violence. There have been some studies from UBC, University of British Columbia, that have shown just that just the prevalence or just the existence of a gay-straight alliance in a school can reduce other forms of violence like racism or sexism or ableism in the school, because it shows the student body that the administration cares about gender and sexual diversity, but then also more generally about diversity in many different forms. And so we need to respect diversity. It's not something to stamp out or hurt people about. It's actually something to celebrate and applaud. We just need all hands on deck to try to reverse the overarching worldview, which is homophobic, transphobic, heterosexist, and compulsory heterosexuality. We need to reverse that and recognize that, yes, the majority of people are heterosexual, and that's fine. But there is a minority here that is also existing, and we need to respect that group and actually support them, because they can only do so much advocacy for themselves. So that we need all hands on deck to try to respect gender and sexual diversity. And we need to support our student leaders that are doing that.
Wow, a huge thanks to Dr. Tonya Callaghan for all their amazing research and contribution to this podcast. And of course, to you, friends. What a time we've had. Thank you for listening and learning with us on this Late in 88 journey. Keep in touch with us on socials at late.in.88 and check out our amazing resources at latein88.com. We love you.
This podcast is distributed by the Women in Media Podcast Network. Find out more at womeninmedia.network.